So are you ready to start paying your respects to Agent Frank and Agent Jim?
I am. If you saw our last video, you'll see that we did a mission and didn't get a plan, men got captured and we lost a couple of agents.
We did. We had 21 agents lined up around a place we can't disclose, unfortunately. But 2 of them lost their lives, we had to take their place, and now it's time to pay respect.
That phase went well, but it's still ongoing.
It is still ongoing. We need to find out where M's gone. We've got a lot to do, but
Yeah.
for now I think the guys are ready. They're ready.
Ready? Yeah.
Trooper T's. Troop alert. Pay respect. Trooper T's.
I think we're ready to get under some geometry now.
Yes, sorry about that, we had to pay our respects.
We do, it's important.
3D coordinates is the title of this.
Absolutely. So we've gone over 2D coordinates. We have our x and our y in axes.
You know your y goes upwards and your x goes that way, but what if you want to draw things in 3 dimensions on a graph?
If you had a cube or something, we need another axis.
We do, and what this will do is you would display it by drawing it this way, but you've got to imagine it's coming out towards you.
Yeah, out of the board.
And we call it
Z.
Z. So now we have y, x and z. That probably looks like an N to you, I'll draw it your way.
You were sideways somehow, so...
I was drawing it along the line.
Oh, I see, yeah.
As a Z. And we draw 3D blocks on this, and you'll get questions about that in your exams.
You will. And just coordinate points. They have 2 main sets of questions. Sometimes they have a point that you know, and then a point that they'll display on a line, and they'll say, whereabouts is it?
An example of this. First of all, we draw a rectangle. I always find it's quite hard to draw these. Then it comes out a certain amount, it goes in, it goes up, and that way, and then across, and that way, and then down. That's quite a terrible block. It's kind of funny shape, but you can see it's a block.
And it's in 3 dimensions, sort of.
So we have a point P here, and a point Q here.
And if we know that this is the origin.
That is the origin.
And point Q has coordinates 2, 2, and 3, which is our third, which is our Z coordinate, the third one.
The X and Y don't move, so it's
X, Y, and then Z.
it's worth a mention.
Makes sense. And then it asks, what would P be?
P. Well, X is along this line, and if you're imagining a perfectly drawn rectangle, which a cuboid, which this is not, but just imagine it is, P and Q are going to be in the same length along the X direction.
They are, so that would be the same, it would be 2.
In terms of height, up the cuboid, so up in the Y direction, these are both going to be the same height as well, because the cuboid is going to be flat on the top. You're imagining this coming out to you, so that's also going to be 2.
But it's not the same in the Z, because it's further back along this line. And you can see how far back it is by sort of going along, going down, and it's pretty much at the origin.
In fact, it's exactly at 0 in the Z direction, so the last coordinate would be, in this case, 0, because it's not coming out of the page at all. If you're just to draw from here to the point P, it would entirely be on the Y and X axis. You wouldn't need the Z one.
You wouldn't need the Z one. So that's one question they ask you. There's one that's a bit more complicated.
They like to know the midpoints.
And we covered this in 2D coordinates. It's slightly different in 3D.
Yes, however it is the same thing, it's just the 3rd time you do it.
Yeah.
But we'll go through it anyway. So, I'll give another example to that one.
Okay.
You have the point A.
Yeah.
And you've been given the coordinates, say it's 2, 3, 6. And you're given the point B, and you might be told that's 4, 7, 10.
Okay.
And you want to find out the midpoint of these 2 lines. Now, you could, I suppose, draw it in 3 dimensions really accurately,
Yeah.
and look at where
It may work, and often they'll show you the drawing in the exam, but you don't need to use the drawing.
You can in fact use the little trick we showed you at the midpoint last time we did it.
You can. Which, reminding you, there was our first X point.
We call them x1 and x2. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter which way around it they are.
It doesn't.
Because they're just x's.
And that'd be the midpoint of the first coordinate, and then it goes on to Y, and then Z in this example.
So what you're going to have in coordinate, you're going to have 2 plus 4 divided by 2, because that's 1 and 1 of the x. And that's going to be your first coordinate. Then you're going to have 3 plus 7 divided by 2, and 6 plus 10 divided by 2, and these are going to be your 3 coordinates.
So it becomes 6 divided by 2, which is 3, 10 divided by 2, which is 5, and then 16 divided by 2, which is 8, and that becomes your new midpoint between A and B. And they could ask you to plot it, but that's just looking at graphs and plotting it.
And in fact, they would never expect you to draw it, because if you've just seen by my drawing skills, it's really hard to draw.
It is quite hard to draw, yeah.
So if they asked you to plot this point, they would draw it and ask you to say where it is and what the coordinates are. So
Yeah.
that's all there is in this.
That is all there is, because it's quite a new idea, so don't ask you too many complicated questions, but it's all B level.
It is, yeah. I think it's quite difficult to get your head around, but apparently it's not a stretch and challenge question.
So,
Just get it in your bank as marking points.
I like it.
I think we should get on with finding M now.
I think we should get on to phase 2.
Let's go.